but I couldn't get him head today.
You hear me?
Marpat would make that bag cooler.
Yeah, I got my dick sucker, bro.
So I said, I emailed him. I PM'd him. I said, "How's your dick sucker?"
Yeah, I said they'll be in full touch. Come on.
Oh, that canine guy, the state trooper, that's what he was saying. When I said, yeah.
Does he brush his dog's teeth?
Man, that's funny you said that.
Because he doesn't.
You want me to take my shoes off?
Did I take my shoes
Oh,
off?
no.
You're good, bro.
Knives.
But if you do have a knife,
yeah.
yeah,
Cock right there.
take it out and we'll put it here's your move that little pocket not there.
Here's your watch.
My watch.
Oh.
Sit down wherever you want.
It's starting to look like Godzilla. So, fucking YouTube, you know, I play music off YouTube.
Okay, YouTube, yes.
And they have the whole, it was the butterfly thing all the last 2 damn weeks, the Intel butterfly dress. Every fucking song they play that little ad for Intel. Now it's something else with Intel, and they got this Japanese dude talking in Japanese.
Yeah.
And every time it comes on, all I hear is, Godzilla! Godzilla! Like, motherfucker. It turns like every fucking other song.
It's dull.
They make you watch that video.
Mine's dull too, yeah.
Yeah, man.
He's like, yeah, I just got this Strider. I just got this whole thing.
No, that's the nicest knife I got.
That's awesome, yeah.
Yeah.
No, he was looking at mine. He's like, yeah, I got this. I go, what do you mean? That's an awesome Strider.
Yeah. To me, that's my favorite.
All right, so this is Ghent Combs, and he made the SOE sign, and the SOE for Life sign, and the Rakusan sign. And he came today to hang out with us, and he has built this 3-dimensional cock. Can we see it in the film right now?
Yes.
All right. And so you do not want to build more signs, or you are going to? You want to?
I want to build more signs. It's just, I was recently hired by Off-Road Retrofit, which is going to be in the business of customizing side-by-sides, and it, you know, all different makes and models. But we do powder coating, we'll do bumpers, plastic, you know, grills, all this stuff. And that's taken a lot of my time. The only time I do get to do this is either on the weekends or as soon as I get off work. And I normally work, you know, from 8 until sometimes late. So it's kind of taken a lot of my time up on this.
So right now you are not taking any orders to do signs?
Oh, I would take an order to do
Okay.
it. You know what I'm saying.
Okay.
It's just, you know, whatever, you know.
Okay, well we just won't tell them how to find you, and if they're smart enough to find you, that'll weed out the dumb ones. And you'll just deal with the fucking smart ones. So he makes these signs. He can make pretty much anything. He makes them by hand. If he made 10 that were the same, they would all be different because he does do them by hand. They're not on a flame table. It's not CNC'd. Literally every one of them's different. So you throw him an idea and some photos, and he can, you know, produce this. He's on the SOE closed page, so if you guys want to talk to him and you're on our SOE family page or the closed SOE tactical gear page, he's on both pages. You can find him in there. Otherwise, he's on Facebook, and you know, if you watch our videos, you'll catch his name. And you know, there's not a lot of guys named Ghent on Facebook. So
Yeah, it's Jent.
Ghent, sorry.
No, you're fine. You're
But
fine.
it's spelled G-H-E-N-T.
G-N-T.
How'd that name come to be? What's that?
My dad's brother, my dad was Dan Jack Combs, and his brother's name was Clarence Jent Combs. He was a P-51 pilot in World War II and getting ready to go to Korea, and was down here at Fort Knox for the West Virginia governor, and the Kentucky governor was coming down, and they were going to see the P-51 squadrons for the reserves or whatever, and they were flying to put on a show, and they're in formation. Jent is in the front, and the other 4 guys, well, somebody yelled bogey in the pattern, and the bottom, everybody broke, but what happened was the bottom guy hit him and killed him. And My dad never had two daughters from two separate, two daughters from a previous marriage before us, and he always wanted a boy, and he said, if I ever have a son, I'm going to name it Jent for my brother. Yeah, so that was cool, and that's the way it went with that. But yeah, everything.
So you want to tell us, like, we read your letter before that you sent on video back when we were in the other building. You want to just give a rundown of how you started this and what made you send the signs?
Yeah. I live in Eastern Kentucky. Like I said, my dad was a judge. Any normal attorney's son, anything up there, I little wild back in the teenage years. But I always was good with, from a young age, I was into motorcycles and all that kind of stuff. And what happened was, I always was real meticulous. Like, I'd want to take go-karts apart and just always do it and learn stuff as I go. I got into woodworking, started doing that. And then I went to work. My first job was at an oil refinery right in the neighborhood to the side of it, Kentucky Oil Refinery. And I got into that, cutting grass, doing it. But every evening when I took the weeders and all that stuff over there would be guys welding on tankers, aluminum, building containments. And man, I just thought welding was the coolest thing. I mean, it just looked cool, and I wanted to do it. Well, of course, I'd aggravate the living shit out of them and ask them and say, hey, man, will you teach me how to weld? And they would be like, oh, man, I got too much welding to do, or I got this. And finally, after, 2-3 months of aggravating them, this older guy said, you know what, if you're really wanting to learn, you clean this shit up that I'm doing, and I'll teach you. And so he goes, but now you're going to have to learn, hands, I'm not going to do it and then just, here, this is what you do. You're going to have to know how to turn the machine on, how to not, and that went through that process, started welding. And buddy, when I started welding, the first thing I ever made, I'll never forget this, and oxygen settling torches. I took and cut out the Mustang on a flat piece. I made a table after I learned how to weld. And I was like, man, I want to cut something out of metal, not just straight lines like to make a form or a railing or something. I want to do art. And this is in the 90s, and about 96, 97, and I grabbed a cutting torch one night. I already had a table built. It looked pretty much like this, but a little taller, but it was longer. And I drew with soapstone, what welders use, and drew out a Mustang with flames. And I turned that torch down to where I thought it would work, and I just started going real slow. And it turned out, and then I took a die grinder and cut in the metal with the flames. Now, the next week or two, a welding company, Scott Gross, they're got a bunch of branches. They sell welding supplies in Kentucky and other states. It's a gas company, and the guy named Jimmy Wright stopped by and seen that, and he was like, who done that? And they were like, oh, it's the guy that cuts weeds for us, picks trash out. And he was like, man, that's really nice. Where's he at? And so he leaves. I don't know this. He goes straight back and picks up a demo plasma cutter. They were just getting ready, and he drops it off, and he goes to the office, and he's like, I need to find your guys' grass cutter or whatever. And he's cool as shit, Jimmy is. And he brings it over, man, and he's like, now I'm going to show you how this works, and use it as long as you want. I'm leaving here for a month. He goes, I really like what you done. I want you to do it. So then, and at this time, I was working there at the late 90s where I had to go stay all night at, and I'm ashamed of it, I was on doing like a work release. I was in jail, and I would get picked up in the morning, get picked up in the evening. And they were great to let me do that, and I'd fulfilled all my needs of doing what I was supposed to do. But now, December 24th of that final year, they said, you're going home, and my house is right beside the refinery. And the owner of the company said, I know now you're going to be home. How about you do this? You work for us, and then in the evening times you use our shop for anything you want to do. So the plasma cutter's there. And it's still on, you know what I meant, this is the demo time. And I said, are you sure? He goes, anything you want to do. I mean, he looked at me like my dad, because my dad was sick at the time, and he was just like being a father figure, man. Real cool guy. Dale Thomason, that owns Kentucky Oil Refinery right now. And I said, sure, I'll stay there. And he goes, I just don't want you running around with the same crowd.
So he's concerned.
Yeah, he was. And he was really, and I took it as like, you know, he never done that before to most employees or anything. And I said, yeah, I'll do it. And son, there were stuff from skulls to flames to anything I could draw. I was cutting it out. Well, a month goes by, Jimmy Wright shows back up he goes, what'd you think? I was like, man, I love it. But I was only making minimum wage. And I was like, I can't buy this, you know. And I'll tell you how cool Dale Thomason was. I'm standing there, and he has two sons. Matt Thomason runs like all these gas stations you would have. And then Chris is over the fuel transport company, the garage where I was at. Chris is standing there while Jimmy is there, and he goes, what do you think? And Chris goes, oh, I don't know nothing about it. But he says, wait right here. Jent, you're going to go with me to the office. I was like, oh, shit, I've done something.
Yeah,
I cut that. Yeah, what did I do now? So I go over there, and they take me in the office, and Dale sits down, and Chris sits down, and he goes, same scenario. He goes, you know, we see that you've really done what we said, and if you want to, we're thinking about purchasing that machine. I was like, no, don't purchase it on my account. You know, I can't buy that. And he goes, no, we want you to keep doing what you're doing. And he says, if it's okay, we want to buy this, and that's what we'll do. So they bought it. I worked for them. And then that's when all the motorcycle craze went out. I started making stuff just like for John. But anything I was into at the time, I would take their logo and then make it and send it to them and write a note, just like I did to you.
Yeah.
And say, man, you guys to me have the coolest job in the world. You know, I work and a greased out thing, but one day I want to have that. And I'd write them a note, and I'd send it to a lot of them. Billy Lane of Choppers Inc. was the nicest one. I made probably 3 or 4 signs for him. He sent me jackets with my name embroidered, and it was just the little things. He didn't even have to do that. Right. But that was before videos and doing all the YouTube, and a couple of them never heard nothing from. Never even, you know, seen them or anything. So that was fine. But one night, man, I was sitting there at the house, and to present is I was watching YouTube videos. I watched the Funker 530, yeah. And I like watching all kind of gun stuff. I watch, you know, all this stuff, knives, everything. And the first time I ever saw you was the video. I was researching Strider knives, and a video popped up where you're in and talking about cutting the legs off the and I was like, man, that guy's pretty cool. And then I went and went to SOE. I was researching, and I was like, man, that's cool. And then started watching the videos, and I was like, dude. And at this time, I'm working at a body shop in Harold, Kentucky, and I'm dealing with, if you brought your car there to be painted or whatever, you dealt with me. I ordered parts. I was everything. The owner, he just painted them and done some body work, but I was the go-to. If you had a problem, you came to me, or if you were dropping something off, you know, I was the call, making phone calls, everything. So that being said, I just watched it, and I was like, man, he's got it right. You know, I begged Jeff, my recent boss. I was like, man, I just want to, you know, some of these guys are just like you say. They'll drop a car off, and then next thing you know, they're like, I don't need it. It's a classic car. I don't need it. And we tell them, hey, we are 6 months, a year behind. You know, it will take this long. A rust bucket, a Bondo bucket. And they'll say, oh, we're not in no hurry. Well, 2 weeks, 3 weeks go by, the phone rings. Or they'll show up and they say, hey, you know, this is, how's the car coming? Well, it's still sitting there.
Right where you fucking left it.
Yeah. And I just thought John and all you guys here at SOE, man, you know, are awesome people. And so I was in the process of, you know, leaving where I was working, and I was always, you know, not to be mean or anything like that. I was just straight up that, and I'd made signs like for my previous employer, their sign, it says Harold Auto Body. It's the whole door cut out of and swirled out and everything. And I'd done that 10 years ago, and you know, he knew that at this time that my fiance had purchased a plasma cutter and was wanting me to get back into it. And honestly, I'll be straight up, because I try to be the straight upest person I am, is that I don't want that. I was scared that I wasn't going to be as good as what I was when I was younger. Even though that I got better in everything, I just scared for someone to reject something or, you know, not like what I did. And after watching John's videos, I was just like, shit, you know, I'm going to do this. And that's where I started doing it. I went to the local truck body that manufactures coal truck bodies, Jim Reynolds Trucking, and I go in there like I did 10 years ago, and he's like, what are you doing here? I was like, man, I'm going to start making some signs. And he's like, about time. And he goes, what do you need? And great guy, gives it to me at cost, scrap prices. And when they're doing those beds, you know, they have big drop pieces.
Big
so, and I'd go in there, and he'd be like, you know, after work, they're hanging out, playing cards, having a cold one and whatever, and they're like, hey, take it. And you know, this is how much it is, and I'd pay them, and I just said, hell, I'm going to make these for John. You know, I knew that at that time, that video, that the big sign you got, but my finances at that time were not accessible to make one that big.
Oh, man, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's where it went, and I started making them. And then when you guys were super cool to do the video and everything like that, I was like, man, I've got to go down there. And came down here to hang out with Brian, that just came back from Fort Bragg to go to Fort Campbell. And I knew you guys were close, and I was like, Nikki was like, what you got planned? I was like, I'm going to make a 3-dimensional thing, combat cop. And she's like, how you going to do it? And I was like, well, I wanted to, because this table, I wanted to figure it out to where you could almost use it as an end table or whatever on its side and get a piece of glass.
About the height.
Yeah, but I didn't do, like, if we turned it over on its side to make it an end table or something and have a piece of glass cut. So I just had the aluminum welder, hadn't aluminum weld in shit, I'm going to say a year to 2 years, and that stuff was brand new in my little, I'm going to say 10-foot by 8-foot shop with my compressor there, and it's taking up that much space, and I was like, I'm getting this done.
That's gotta be fucking loud.
Yeah, it is. Well, I got gun earmuffs when I'm working and everything, but I got music playing too. So I started out and drew out what I was going to do, got some kind of reference points, sheared the aluminum at 2 foot by 2 foot, the sides, and then measured out, you know, what the width was going to be. And that's all hand bent, you know, by my hands. I don't have a press brake, I don't have nothing. And that is 1/8" aluminum. So about had to get some ratchet straps. Yeah. And just when I started tacking, it was getting kind of technical, but I didn't stop. The night I started welding, I was welding until, I'm going to say, I went out there in the shop at 6, and I got home, fed the dogs, I'm going to say about 8 o'clock, and I was from 8 o'clock until 2:45 in the morning just welding it all together. And then, like I said, you know, I wanted to have it powder coated, but we were in the process of...
No, that candy apple looks good on there.
Yeah,
man.
but...
we used to put diamond plate up on the curb and then drive on it.
Yeah.
To get the curb we need,
shapes,
skid plates
yeah.
for the blazer and shit.
Yeah.
He was doing it.
Yeah.
Brett out there driving up. Is it enough? Nope, not enough.
No, and that's how it is. Yeah, and that's how it is.
That fucking piece would shoot out and go and fly up and hit the house. God, it would have cut somebody's fucking legs off if it had hit them.
But that's the whole thing around it. And, you know, I've never had someone like yourself to be as cool and, you know, not to ever meet face to face or anything like that. So I wanted you to have that. And,
well, we like it, man. It's awesome. So are the other signs.
Yeah. But like I said, I don't care one bit. You know, I'll make signs. I'll make anything. If you just got a design and you know, email it to me. I tell people all the time, don't get mad at me on the business Facebook page for Jent's. It's Jent's Custom Metal that I don't update, you know, keep updating because I'm working. I'm wide open, you know, and it's more easier to get in touch with me through my personal one.
Do you do your Facebook shit off a computer? Or off
the phone? Sometimes off the phone when I'm at the shop.
I hated the phone. I like the computer because I was just taking pictures with a camera, put it in the computer and load it to Facebook, and I could do a lot. I was used to doing it.
Yeah.
But with Instagram, you cannot upload to Instagram from the computer.
Yeah.
So I started using the phone, and once I used it for a couple weeks, it's just easier.
Yeah.
And you can set them up too, like so your Facebook will dump to your Instagram.
Well, see that I've got my fiance's little brother. He's went to school and getting ready to try to do the accounting thing, and he's real smart with that stuff. And he said, "Look, I'm going to do a dump box for you and drop it off."
Yeah.
And he goes, "And if you got a problem with it, just email me, and I've got access to the thing. I'll push them over." And that's what we've been doing. I like Instagram. I take pictures all the time, like in the middle of the night, and I like that part where I can shoot them straight to Facebook and everything. But I really, I like doing this, and hopefully it'll pay off sooner or later. And
we've got a lot of guys on the page. We got a lot of business,
Yeah.
companies that we're friendly with. A lot of Green Force Tactical.
Yeah.
I know Green Force has a sign going by our buddy Justin. He
Yeah.
painted the razors
Yeah,
for Amanda and my grenade.
Yeah.
He's done one for Swinney.
Yeah.
He's doing one for Green Force or about to.
Yeah.
So you'll get hit up. Guys,
yeah,
guys
oh yeah. And like I said,
and you don't charge enough. Like you need to charge more. Like when I asked you what you would charge for that, like you need to charge twice as much because number one, guys will pay it. Number two, guys that have the money to buy that shit, that are willing to pay your higher price because your time is worth that.
Yes.
They're going to be easier to deal with.
Yes.
You're not going to get as much bullshit.
Bullshit, yeah.
Like if you can only build 100 of something, why sell it for you just keep raising the price until it stops selling, then you can depart back down.
Yeah.
But do you want to sell 1,000,000 of something for $1, or do you want to sell 1,000 of something for $1 million?
Yeah.
I'd rather sell less for more. I don't want to be Ford. I'm not trying to put a car in everybody's driveway.
Yeah, no,
I want to be Ferrari, where you fucking wait 2 years. When dudes complain to me, they're like, "Well, why didn't you tell me?" Well, number one, why didn't you fucking ask? And number two, let me go ahead and that Porsche I have ordered right now from Germany, let me fucking call them and ask them where it's fucking at.
Yeah. And that's the truth. I mean, nowadays I think the biggest thing I find is people want it now.
Yeah.
And they don't understand about craftsmanship.
Amazon has done that, man.
Yeah.
Amazon and Walmart.
Yeah, and like that's what I like about you is like every piece is, and every piece is handmade. I mean, everything is done. And it's, it's not some machine printing it out. Like when I got just a simple sewing machine, I was calling just to ask, and they were like, "Well, if you want to do this, we have something that'll X-stitch it automatic." And I'm like, "No."
Yeah, you know what? I have two $14,000 sewing
Yeah,
machines.
and that's...
And we are, number one, we're faster doing it the old way. And number two, we can't work on those motherfuckers when we break them.
Yeah.
Like I can pretty well fix everything down there. We got 50 sewing machines down there.
Yeah.
We got 32 in motion. I can fix that shit.
Yeah.
And number two, he can sew. We just both made belts. We cut belts, and I built one, and he built one. And we brought them over to our guys. Our guys couldn't. Tyler said he could tell, but he's just fucking lucky he couldn't fucking tell. So he works in a lot of different mediums. Like he said, he did wood, he does steel. He's got a sewing machine. He wanted to do a little sewing. So I've never, ever, not one time, let a dude come in here and sit down and sew in my shop, much less on one of my machines. And
your machine.
my machine.
You're sewing on your machine, not.
Yeah.
And really, you couldn't tell the difference. I mean, you really could.
And and when I first got here, I want to,
When he walked in the door, they stood at there. I go, "Are you gonna fucking come in or
Yeah,
what?"
yeah,
I didn't know who you were.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, "Where's the fucking in and out? You better have some in and out with you."
Yeah, and that was the thing, I was, and he'll tell you, Brian will say, I guarantee you, the whole time I've been here, I was like, man, I want them to, not think I'm stupid.